ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, on to item 7, approval of agenda. I have a motion.
I move.
Is that 2 or?
I move.
Dante moved, Gary,
I'm
one
sorry,
second.
I didn't see you. Yes, of course.
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion, go ahead.
I'd like to move item 18 to follow the approval of the agenda.
Okay. So you want to reorder the agenda.
That is correct.
We put it there in order to try to streamline factors. That's the way it used to be, and over the last 2 sessions, we put it toward the end.
I have, since I've been on the board, I don't ever remember it being at the end.
It was last, I don't know if you were here last time. Like I said.
Last meeting it was not at the end. I think I have the minutes to the last meeting right here.
Yeah, take a look.
Why was it put back in?
It was mainly to ensure that we get to the legislative items up front before somebody has to leave or
I got
it's too late, that kind of thing.
I remember
At the last meeting, the board of director reports followed. We have approval of the agenda, student presentation, director of PR philanthropy report, board director reports.
What date is that, Darren?
That is, this is the meeting, this is April 1st, 2019.
And we were talking about the May meeting, I think.
April 19th, I'm sure, I don't have my minutes, but I bet you if we went back to those minutes.
You want to call that up, Jillian? What's
I recall.
Yeah. So for the last meeting in May, we had to go through all the legislative items. There's a lot. And then the consent agenda. And then board director reports.
I thought the same as Gary, that we had it at the beginning. And as long as I've been here, I thought we had the director's comments, reports at the beginning of the meeting. So I concur that we recess the other items on the agenda and move that item up to, where do you want that, Gary?
I would like it to be the next item.
The next item. I also agree with that.
So Gary's made a motion.
You second the motion?
Yes,
Darren's seconding it. The motion is to move item number, what was it, 18 off the agenda as it's currently posted and moving it up to item
In place, in front of
7.
me.
8, I guess. 7A.
Make it, okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? I mean, we gave the reasons why we put the agenda this way. So.
I remember the discussion we had because we weren't getting through the legislative things.
Right.
And people were having, we lost our quorum and
Yeah.
it got very cumbersome.
Yeah, I think that was what I
That was the
remember
only
as the
reason.
reason. So. Okay, any other? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
So 3 in favor?
Yeah, so, okay, I have Parker.
Those
Gary.
opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Okay, so it's 3, 4, and 3, 4, 5, 7. 7 again, so the motion does not carry. We'll move on to item number 7, I guess, which was approval of the agenda. We had a motion and a second, and I guess all those in favor of approving the agenda as is? All right. We've had the discussion, I think. Okay. Any opposed?
Want me to do it?
No opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. If we'll move on to the agenda as considered. Okay, moving on into the public comment sessions for the legislative session. So are there any public comments at this point on the items in the legislative agenda or other items as needed? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 8 in the legislative session. Consideration of agreement with Cronus Sashar or something, Incorporated Timekeeping Services. Okay, so it's a replacement of the current timekeeping services contract, I guess. And we all read the memo that basically gave the rationale for the change. And the copy of the agreement is there, right? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second on item number 8. Any further discussion?
Can Laura give a quick summary of what the reasoning was, so we have it in the minutes of this meeting?
Certainly. So on review of our current timekeeping system, we were really struggling to account for our needs as a growing organization. The system just wasn't working. So staff did a lot of research and came up with a system with little additional cost. I think it's just over $400 more a year. Will actually give us more modules, more ability to do more than just timekeeping, but it's an entire HRIS or Human Resources Information Services system. So we're anticipating a much more serviceable approach that does more, not only to support HR, but to support everybody, and does better timekeeping. So
Is it a yearly agreement, or what is the contract?
yes, it's annual.
Okay. And you don't have the exact cost?
Yeah, it's in there. It's in the agreement.
$23,143.
I wanted it in a minute, so I think. All right.
Good.
No more discussion for me.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor of approving this agreement with the timekeeping services contractor? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. On to item 9. Okay, so we should just summarize here that item 9 through 12 are basically updates to existing policies. They basically take into consideration a couple key things. There's some wording changes, but mostly it's a policy numbering thing to be consistent on the policy numbers. And there was some addition involved for the elementary school coming on board. Other than that, it's mostly the same kind of policy, just expanded in those manners. We'll go through them individually, but I just wanted to mention 9 through 12 are quite similar.
So, Mr. Chair, you're actually speaking on the item before you get there. That kind of violates putting out your opinion in this open session before we get to those items.
Actually, not so if we use our special rules of order, which of course we are, which is allows us to do.
Clearly, Mr. Chair, you're speaking on the item in support of things or what the item is before we get to the item. That's the only issue I have, and you giving your opinion, thus moving into the area that the young man just talked about under the Brown Act. So if you could just mention the item and go to it, we could run right.
Okay, item number 9.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have a motion? Item number 9 is SP017, promotion and retention policy.
So moved.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'm concerned about the language that includes the elementary school, and I'm concerned that, my ongoing concern is having it directly on the same campus as high grades.
Well, that's all been approved by this board,
I'm
More than
giving-
once, so.
Sir, I didn't ask.
and we note your
Okay, well,
concerns.
I want that in the minutes, that's why I
Sure.
said, that's why we had discussion, and I don't need you to say that we did,
Well-
I know what happened.
I mean,
Okay, thank you.
you had
sir.
your comment, I had my comment,
But,
okay?
well, you commented to me, not to the issue.
Well, actually, I did comment to the issue.
Like I said, I still have a concern about the elementary school.
Just keep going here.
Thank
So
you.
noted.
So noted.
Thank you. For the respect.
Okay, any further discussion on item number 9? Okay. Ask for a vote on item number 9, update of board policy SB 017. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right.
One opposition. You got that? Okay, item number 10, SB policy number 19, child fine. Again, it was mainly a policy numbering issues been updated.
So moved.
We have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second on item number 10, SB 019, child fine policy. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Number 11, SP 01 or 020, physical restraint, and mainly a policy numbering update.
So
We have a motion? A motion?
I'll second.
Motion and a second on item number 11, consideration of update to board policy SP 020, physical restraint. Any further discussion?
I have this. No,
Go
you
ahead.
first.
Are you sure?
Yes, ma'am.
I have two concerns
Mhm.
as I read this. My first concern is there is only one mention in the entire policy about adequate training. It's a brief sentence and I don't feel like it's strong enough. And so I have concerns about that. My second concern is that in this policy, there are timelines, and forgive me, I didn't pull it in front of me, relative to notification of the head of school by staff when it happens, and then notification to parents. And the notification to parent when a child is physically restrained in this policy says 24 hours. I'm really concerned about 24 hours. I think if you restrain somebody's child and you haven't talked to them, within 3-4 hours, 5 hours maybe max, we could get a lot of flack from that. So I don't have a problem with the policy itself, I just have a problem with those two pieces
I think
of it.
that's a very good point, Ken. Why would it be 24 hours?
So
Just to cover somebody that's out of town?
I think that's the legal requirement. This policy actually just came from a recommended board policy. I will tell you that the notification would happen immediately.
Well,
I'll
I
also-
would hope so.
Of course it would. I will also tell you, it's never actually happened here, knock on wood.
But we're about to get a whole new group of kiddos.
Correct.
We just did the child find. Those kids are gonna come with behavior support plans, et cetera. So I foresee that at a time, we could have somebody physically
Does
restrained.
it say within, or does it say?
It says within, but perhaps if we could add a statement that says, as soon as possible with.
At least within 24 hours.
Exactly, so that we are showing we are making an effort. I am concerned about those two things.
And stronger language about adequate training.
Yes.
My experience of, restraint is at the high school level where it's not uncommon at all. It's just
Right.
uncommon here.
Yeah.
But I would say best practice is immediate notification. So,
Is that too vague though?
well,
Well, you try to notify immediately.
You know, I don't wanna
As soon
say
as it's
I
practical.
don't wanna give us a absolute time limit we have to
Mhm.
meet, because we already know some parents are not available. I just think it is incumbent upon us to say,
as soon as is.
At least an attempt.
Yeah,
Madam
yeah.
Secretary, I would entertain that, any language you could put in it to make that a stronger now. Because as a parent, I can tell you, if you put your hands on my kids and you don't tell me within 30 seconds, something's wrong here. You know, I have 5 daughters, so I don't, 24 hours, 1 hour, 1 second with technology the way it is right now. You pick up the phone, you text, this is like an emergency call, just like you're gonna call on the lockdown. So, as a parent, I think it's our duty to make sure that if someone puts their hands on your child, that parent knows immediately. And it's not language, it's a right, because you shouldn't put your hands on anybody's kid. And if you have to go to that extent to place your hands on someone's kid, that needs to be immediate. So if you can have a language that says immediately, if not sooner, that's the key here. And regardless if it's ever happened here before, an adult right now in this country putting their hands on children is not something that is taken lightly at all. So could we have some language that says immediately, if not sooner? Immediately and at our earliest, no, not even at our earliest, just immediately. That a parent should be contacted immediately when a child, when the staff puts their hands on a child. Let's not beat around the bush. Because you better not put their hands on a kid. That's the prevailing.
Is there
parent
an,
sentiment.
I apologize,
No.
may I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
Is there a need for us to approve this policy tonight, or
No,
could we
I can
ask
bring
that
it
you
back.
come back
Bring it back.
with some stronger language?
Of course.
Okay, I just am nervous about the kiddos
Absolutely.
that are coming in.
I think rather than trying to change it on the fly.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll just bring it back.
So,
Right.
did you make the motion? Will you withdraw your
Someone had
motion in favor of bringing
Yeah.
this back?
I withdraw the motion, to table the issue
To the next meeting?
till the next meeting.
I will second that.
Okay, so the motion on item number 11 is to delay the approval of this until the next meeting, or to table it till the next meeting,
Until the language is
Mm-hmm.
changed.
until the language has been changed. It'll be on next month's agenda. Okay, any other comments? Okay, all those in favor of that motion, which would be to delay number 11 till the next meeting?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item number 12, Board Policy SB 2021, individual education evaluation. Do I have a motion?
I move.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's move on to consideration of update to policy SB 21, individual education evaluation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item number 13, consideration of the 1920 DTS contract. This one's a renewal, I guess, right, with some expansion given the elementary school. Do I have a motion?
Move.
I'll second.
A motion and a second on item number 13. Do we have any discussion?
Can we have Laura explain what DTS is?
So DTS offers virtual services for speech and language.
GTS
policy.
stands for,
Oh, that's
is
a
that the
fine
company's
question.
name? or-
Yeah, that's the company name. Would you click on the contract for DTS so we can see what it stands for? Not the memo, the agreement. There you go. That's the one.
Maybe it's just BTS.
Wrong one. That's the next item. That's Invo.
I think the link is linked incorrectly.
Jillian, I'm looking at the Invo contract for DTS.
It looks like it stands for dynamic therapy.
Dynamic Therapy Solutions, thank you. There it is. You are correct, madam.
I might have just clicked the wrong link.
Thank you.
Perfect, thanks, Michael. So, to clarify this contract and its size, we anticipate providing additional services to students in the elementary grade levels, but at this point, we're not sure how much, obviously. We anticipate we already have about 30 students with IEPs currently enrolled, and over the course of the year, we expect to identify more. So the contract is written with that in mind. So that's the explanation for the increase in cost for the contract. And as an aside, in our annual budget, the monies that we receive for special education, the federal funds that we receive, don't entirely cover these expenses. It's not unusual for schools to be upside down with special education expenses. We still have to provide the services. So the special education monies coming in are a little bit less than just these going out, so.
So that contract is with, the DTS is who we contract with and make sure that we have the individual education evaluation services.
No, this
What
is
does DTS do? What is?
Dynamic Therapy Solutions provides speech and language services, so speech
Okay.
therapy.
And what is, presently, what is the cost that you're talking about a renewal? And is it
So
an annual renewal?
the cost of the contract
Yes,
is
ma'am.
based on the hours projected. So
Okay.
they actually bill actual hours. Last year, it was about $163,000, 54 cases and 8 speech evaluations. And then $20,000 for virtual speech cases. And then next year, like I said, we anticipate a substantial increase in that.
So in that, we have people that actually come on campuses and do that service?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
It appears that the Invo contract is attached to both the DTS item and the Invo item, so maybe.
So is the DTS contract attached anywhere else?
I mean, it should only be in that spot, so I don't know, I have to click on every single link and check it.
So,
I did not
We'll
look
check
at the
that out.
DTS contract.
well, if you didn't get to review the DTS contract, I can table it and bring it back. You had the memo summarizing it, but if you didn't get to see the
No,
actual contract.
I just asked for the numbers,
Right.
and I wanted the numbers to come out during the meeting.
Right.
So there's a case in point in there, and, you know, kind of explaining what BTS is, and you even had to look it up, because that's what the young man just said about, these educators like to do that, and they do. So that's why I asked for that and what their services were, and,
Yeah, I was guilty of the acronym problem right there.
No, it's good. That's
Quite
just
true.
education, just for a moment.
Well, I also have a comment. I have a little bit of a concern in that this contract, which we approved last year, for assistive technology and speech and language, and I see there are some reading supports in here, but one of the things that I found that kind of gave me pause was that these folks did an in-service for, and see it's flipping now, I can't get it to hold here, for positive behavior support training. What are their qualifications if their main focus is assistive technology, speech and language, and was that done in conjunction with our school psychologist?
It was done in conjunction with our school psychologist and school staff in the context of managing behaviors for special needs students. That was also very well received, but it was with our staff.
But I understand that it was with our staff, but I'm concerned that an assistive technology company is doing positive behavior support training. I mean, that's
I see.
very divergent.
I see.
They're not the same thing. So Was that a piece of their contract that I just don't remember?
So it is one of the services that we didn't contract with them with that service in mind, but dynamic therapy solutions is broader based than just the speech therapy solutions that we contracted for. They presented this as a possibility, staff was interested, so we did offer that training. But it was absolutely different than the
Okay.
therapy solutions, yes. The speech therapy solutions,
And done in conjunction with our school
Absolutely.
psychologist?
absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions on item number 13?
So they attend the IEPs with the students?
Yes, absolutely, and they do speech evaluation and present reports.
My son.
Does it work well? We want to attest.
It's actually a great program here. I called the school back and gave him a huge compliment because this is the first time he's had an IEP meeting where everybody was present, everybody had comments, and nobody just tried to push it aside and say nothing was wrong. They were all very engaged, so I was very happy with it.
Oh, great.
Any other comments, questions?
I would appreciate the opportunity to review the contract.
So, that being said, we should, again, we should table this one so that I can get you the actual contract. And I apologize, I thought I clicked through all of those.
It won't prevent anybody from receiving services in the next.
No, we're okay.
Because we could extend under the current
Mr. President,
contract.
Well,
for
because
summer
we-
school.
Are they providing anything over summer? I don't think they are.
Don't think the DTS one, I think the Invo Healthcare is providing services.
But
over the
DTS
summer
is
school,
not.
but the DTS is not.
So we should be fine.
I think it would be prudent.
Who made that motion, please?
Darren did.
Mr. Parker, would you withdraw your motion, please, so we can bring this back at the next meeting?
I'm agreeable to the agenda.
I move that we table this till the next meeting
To fix the link so that
to
we can
fix the
read
link so that we can
read
all
the
have
email.
access to it.
Thank you, I really appreciate that.
Okay, so,
should I ask the board to consider, when we make these agreements like we are right now, some of us are able to read them, some of us aren't. Anytime an agreement has a financial element to it, I think that should be presented in writing. This is going to be a $25,000 a year cost, a $300,000 a year cost, or whatever, just so that you folks get the feel of what the costs are as we move forward in these things.
Well,
What do you mean by in writing?
agreeing with him.
Do you mean
Your
on
hard
paper?
copy.
Hard copy?
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so right here, one of them would, the Healthcare Associates Agreement. I don't know if that's something that we pay for or whatever. If it is, and it's $76,000, Gary should know it because Gary may be, wait a minute here, I'm gonna get in that business.
But still, you're absolutely right, and that's what the young man said in the Brown Act. You're absolutely right, those things
We're gonna
that
get a
have
picture
cost.
of you and Dante
That's
together.
it, Uncle. We're
Because this
working-
has gotta be
we're
the
working.
first
That's
time.
right.
I
He's
mean,
right.
I'm not as old as he is, so.
He's right. I've been somewhere, I'm coming from something, and it changes you.
It would be helpful.
They can't.
But he's right, that's maybe the only time, but this time.
So do we need to note that in, Dante? Do we need to note that it would be good to have a little, a little thing here, this is.
Anytime there's a financial consideration, this board should know about it. If
Well,
we're taking the
but-
time to approve them.
So if I could, I just want to clarify and state that when we attach those links, it's my assumption that everybody can access that and read it. Because you're absolutely right. I want everybody to know, to have access to every piece of documentation. If for any reason it doesn't work, we are more than happy to provide you with hard copies. There are always hard copies out front. And now there's also hard copies outside the door in a binder. So I've got 2 binders that are always here. But the board, all you have to do is tell me, and I'm happy to provide you with hard copies.
I
I think
think
what he-
all he wants is a summary in the item, just put that in the item.
I think what Dante is saying, yes, we don't have last year's contract. I think what Dante is saying is we have the contract here, but we don't know if it increased, decreased, stay the same. So there could be a little thing saying,
Yeah. The memo says all that.
I gave you a summary memo that with all of that information, but again, it was a
First time.
link. So if
Yeah.
you're not accessing the links, if that doesn't work, just let me
When they
know.
access the link, you have the wrong information. It's just easy to put the numbers in there. Just
The-
put the numbers in there. With the contract for whoever is $50,000, just put the number in there. Where you summarize on it, just put the number in there.
The
Not a
link to
big-
the
Yeah, the
memo
memo
is
has
correct,
it.
it's just the link to this one agreement.
But
Well-
again, you guys are making this too critical. It's real
Your
simple.
memo has
Put the
the
one
numbers in
number in
it.
there.
So
Yeah, the
you
memo.
must not be able to access the
It
memo,
don't
I'm
matter where
thinking,
you go,
right?
put it on
Because the
everything.
memo has the numbers and how much it increased and with the
Yeah,
elementary.
really, the analysis of why.
And that's fine, and I don't have a problem with that, but Mrs. Gookin's point is she wants to review the
No,
contract.
I
That's
completely
fine.
agree with that. I was actually
Okay.
following up on Mr. Simi's request,
Okay.
but this one being tabled because you didn't have the contract, that's a mistake on our part, and I apologize.
Can I
Like-
go back, sorry, I'm sorry, just for the minutes, Kathy, were you seconding, did Darren revise it, or were you
No,
motioning
did-
to revise it?
No,
There was a-
Darren withdrew his
Okay,
motion,
fine.
and then I made the motion to
Motion to
table.
table, but we don't have a second.
I'll second it.
I just wanted to make sure everything was right in the minutes.
Jerry Simmons would be proud of you, Judy.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amended item number 13, which is to table this till the next meeting and ensure that the DTS agreement link works properly on the agenda?
Was there also to add a hard copy to, on,
Whoever
Well,
wants.
let's discuss that a little bit. I mean, we've had this discussion a couple times. I'm not sure that we can always ensure that all of the links are gonna be foolproof. I thought we had kind of an agreement that if you cannot read something, you notify Jillian and she'll send you a separate link with the agreement in PDF or whatever, or, because that may affect more than one person. So if you go through it and you find out you can't get it,
Yeah, in this
I
case,
think
it
it's
wasn't there.
incumbent upon us to kind of try to get that feedback back.
And I take responsibility. I was focused a little bit more deeply on the content. I didn't even notice the vendor name on that contract being the same as on the other item. But just for clarity, and I could be wrong, Dante, so please correct me. It's not so much that he's wanting everyone to get copies of all the memos in hard, but in a lot of board agendas, it will list a fiscal impact and the dollar amount and whether it's restricted or unrestricted funds that are being used,
So
which
you
is
need
a
to know.
relatively, minor adjustment, but really does increase transparency to the community.
I think that's a good point. You
So,
make
but
that
it
a
doesn't
kind of
cost us any more
standard item
trees.
Absolutely.
on any contractual items or any fiscal items, I guess you could say impact. Is it in
Sure.
the budget? Not, do we have to make adjustments?
so it's our responsibility if we can't open the link to let you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But as far as just
Mr.
the
Chair, I
fiscal
call the
impact, I
question.
can do that.
I call the question because this is surrounding the item that can bring back next month.
Okay, item number 13 as amended, to move it on to the next agenda. Any further comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 14, another contract, Invo Healthcare. It's a renewal. And again, I think
I move, don't
Second.
speak on it, please, thank you. Now we're in discussion.
okay, do we have you had a motion, Darren? Did you?
I move.
Okay.
Second.
Michelle, second. Item number 14, any further discussion?
So if I may, this contract with Invo is also a renewal. Services have changed slightly. Invo was also helping with speech services and will not be helping with speech services anymore. They provide occupational therapy. We have 2, maybe 3 students requiring that. And we may have a student requiring behavioral support specialist next year. So that explains the increase in the cost of this contract from, let's see, last year it was $17,300. This year we're projecting approximately $62,000.
Excuse me?
$62,000.
Wait, did you say last year was 17 and
Yes,
now
I did.
this year is 62?
Yes, I did.
Oh, yeah, we need some explanation on that one.
That's the behavior
Yeah, okay,
support
Are we pulling
specialist.
that one, did we pull that one?
No, the explanation says we're hiring another person, that's why the cost went up.
I don't care. It's still going from 17 to 62, I wanna see what that looks like. If we had a 17, we hired 5 people,
We're gonna hire.
one more person, and it's $40,000.
Would you click on the contract, please?
And I think we're
Help me,
including
help me
the
understand.
elementary too in that, right?
I don't mind, like I said, I don't mind, but I wanna know
So,
why we
scroll
went
down
to
just a little bit. Hold on.
we spent 40,000.
Scroll down. Keep going. This is the actual contract. Keep going, keep going, keep going. We're gonna get there. Keep going, keep going. There we go, Exhibit A. There we go. See the behavioral support specialist? This individual is full-time with the student all day long. This is called a one-on-one aid. So
This
that's,
is a new one, right?
yes, this is
Wasn't there
new.
last
We didn't have this last year, and that's the increase in the cost. In my old district, we used to call them para-educators. They're specially trained for that purpose.
I know.
But this is not a school employee.
Correct.
This is a contract.
That is correct.
I do all of this, so that's what I want to do. Thank you.
I
And
appreciate that.
Include
and I feel
elementary
much
as well.
better. I'm feeling something about that, but I'm feeling better.
So we go to the vote.
Mr. Chair, yes, no more
Okay,
discussion
any
for me.
further discussion on item number 14?
I'd just like to say I appreciate that staff has taken into consideration the additional needs of some of our new students and are prepared to support them. So, thank you for that.
And I like the approach, I'll just comment too, the approach on these items where kind of the justification memo was included. Kind of saying, here's what's changed, here are the requirements changes. Kind of puts the background together, saying, why has it changed, even if it's a renewal, services and increase or whatever. So I think that's a good addition to the agenda.
And Mr. Chair, my final comment is that this type of care for students is done in our public school systems. I know that Palmdale has ongoing multiple people that sit with kids one-on-one all day. And I think that us finally having the first one speaks to that they're right. We need to look at that as a double-edged sword. It's wonderful that you're doing it. On the other side, what in the population that you served for all these years, why we have not had another special needs child like that ever before. I just wanted to bring that to our attention, and that's my final thought, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm not sure this is the first, this is an ongoing contract, so we have had services in the past, just one
Mr.
question.
Chair, I call the question, Mr. Chair. Oh, I'm tired, I've gotta get through these, we got closed session, let's get on, I gotta get home,
Okay,
get the
we have-
house thing, my wife get on.
Item number 14, consideration of the Healthcare Associates Agreement. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item number 15, the Antelope Valley College Memorandum Understanding.
I move that we receive this.
Accept the memo.
I have a motion.
Yes, sir.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Well, with your permission, this is a renewal of an MOU that we have had with Antelope Valley College, no cost to us, but allows for students to gain credit and or placement from classes that are articulated between us and the college. So
Thank you.
this is the renewal.
Thank you. Call the question, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving this MOU with Antelope Valley College?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item number 15 is approved. Consideration of appointments to the TPAA Foundation Board. Item number 16.
Mr. Chair, I ask that I make a motion that we pull this item till next month so we can have additional time to think about what that really looks like with Mr. Guizzi and Sandy finally leaving. I think we will need a little more time in the consideration of board members because those two positions are critical to the path moving forward. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to defer this one until the next meeting. Requires a majority vote on this.
Do we
May
have
I-
discussion?
Yeah,
We have
discussion.
a discussion.
The one item of information for you is that these terms expire at the end of June. The individuals who have indicated they want to step down, Mr. Galizzi and Ms. Corrales-Enix, have also indicated that they'll remain in position until this board replaces them, so as not to leave empty seats. Remember that the foundation essentially exists, its sole purpose is the construction of the facility. Most of its work is done, but should they need to meet, we do need to have directors in place. So
What it
that's the only
really is,
consideration.
What it really is, Madam Director, is that the foundation ends up owning these campuses at some time using taxpayer dollars in order to build these things. And so the issue of who's on that board becomes very critical because at some point, based on charter schools, it could leave the governing agency and then it would be owned by the foundation, and that's how most charter schools have begun from the very beginning. So there's been a change in that portion where now charter schools are creating LLCs, and we saw that in a perfect example with the campus that Kamal thought he was going to get and didn't get. So getting into that conversation today, if you guys want to get into it, we'll be here till tomorrow. So I'm asking for that time in order to better focus on how that really affects this board moving forward, even with us sitting here and the governing agency that actually controls these campuses right now. That's part of the legislation that they came and talked about.
So my question is, we still will retain those two that resigned. They will carry on until we've decided on two other directors.
Yes,
Is that
they've
what you're
agreed to.
saying?
And
So they'll continue.
yes,
We
they've
won't
agreed
have
to.
a board that's non-functional because, okay.
Yes, ma'am. And to respond, I do want to make it clear that I don't want to imply in any way that this isn't important. It is absolutely important. It's just that their term is coming to an end, and I want the board to be aware of that. But this board appoints all members to the foundation board. That is your purview.
My concern is, first of all this gives, it doesn't give me, for example, a process. I know the process of how we become a board of directors. There's a process at the school district, there's a process at the city district. So, first of all, I don't know, do we announce that we have, what have we announced? Do we have candidates 4 or 5 that are put in? Do we then review each? The concern I have is I'm looking at this today and going, wow, well, who are the appointments? How are they gotten and so on?
If you're willing to take a moment before we table this, I'd be glad to speak to that.
Because that's why I second it, because I wanted the process.
So unlike appointing to this board where we go through the board development committee and we go through a process, for you appointing to the foundation board, we post the availability, which we've done. We've advertised, we've waited for people to apply, and there hasn't been a rush to the door just yet. However, as you know, we have a couple of board directors who are rotating off of this board, and we do have an application from a board director of this board for when they rotate off of this board to possibly become part of the foundation board. So that's something for this board to consider.
Okay, so let me, because this is, we have other items to get to. So and even in your, making the announcement, it didn't go to a wide audience. And even if you went through 19 candidates, none of us would send any of that information, so we could have looked at the same thing in which you made the decision on. And we're the ones making the decision, so why are you even doing that other than putting the process together? It should have been sent to the board should have had a meeting, we should have went through this on our own, on our own, because it's a board, okay? So, you know, like I said, I don't remember saying or approving that you do all the investigation, come up with the ideas, look at the candidates or not, and we're not involved till you say, pick two candidates. There is a rotation. It's not about the rotation, okay? It's not about the rotation. It's about the process. So all I ask is, I know that none of this happened, because I'm saying this because none of this happened. And if you had even interviewed or considered one person, that was not shared with the board, your opinion, but I don't remember the board giving you the authority to go do that in the first place, and without our input on what that process should look like. That's why he doesn't know anything about it. That's why it's not publicized. If you publicize it only in education and not broadly. So again, I'm not trying to say that this is more critical than people think. Okay, and rotating in and out the board has nothing to do with it. It has to do with who leads this journey from this point on, with the history that this Aerospace Academy had. So I'm not even looking for a comment or rebuttal.
I understand, but I do need to respond.
Well, I call the question, and you now need to have a vote on calling the question, because I don't want you to.
I'm gonna let her
I wanted
comment,
this
and I'm gonna
moved,
let,
I want this to move.
well,
And calling the question, and Robert's rules oversees everybody's hand
It
on
takes
the
a
press
vote.
rate. So,
You
you know,
have to
call
it
it.
takes privilege. Look, you know, I do
does
this.
not take precedence.
It does.
No.
I do this for a living, and what he just taught you, I do for a living. I just did it this weekend. So please, you know, my only motion was very simple, that we just move this out another month.
Calling for the
That's all I
motion
said.
does not end discussion.
Okay, it doesn't. It does. You have to vote on it whether it does or not.
Kevin,
You have to vote on it. You have to vote on it, Kevin.
Let's vote on it.
You can vote.
Okay,
You have to vote on
In
the question,
discussion.
whether they're gonna call the
Whether
question.
we call the
There
question,
you
that's
go.
correct. Those, you just,
It's not
Okay.
debatable.
we've had a member call for the motion.
Call the
Call the
question to go
Call
to
for the-
move this. I
call
called
for
the
the
question. Yes, to move this. It's been moved, you called the question, been moved.
he's gonna go all in favor.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to further discussion.
You don't, down there, vote is a vote. It's in the
I'd like-
record.
I'd just like to understand, because I know we haven't really talked about what it is we're trying to accomplish today. I also would like to know the process, and maybe that's what this item is to talk about what that process looks like and how we move forward.
Thank
So
you.
if that's what we're doing with this particular item, I'd love to have the opportunity to know what that process looks like, so that before we have the people in front of us, we know, what that vetting looks like. Is it a committee? How does that go? I'd appreciate knowing that.
So if I may, to speak to that, the reason that this is on your agenda with no supporting documentation is that before we had any applicants, I wanted the board to have the opportunity to weigh in on the process, because there are a couple of different ways that you can ask to do this. So my inclination, apart from anything else, would be to forward you all applications for your consideration. Now, there aren't any yet. Well, correction, there's one now, but that just happened a couple of days ago. So my inclination would be to forward you all applications. It is up to you if you'd like to have them reviewed and sent to you first, or you'd like them to come directly to you. Would you like to appoint a special committee to do this in the same way that the Board Development Committee does? You have some choices, and it's entirely up to you as to how you approach it. So this is on the agenda now to ask you to consider how you would like to proceed with this, not to expect you to appoint people that haven't even applied.
Laura,
So my apologies for the confusion there.
I think, Laura, the problem is how this is written. Like it says, the board is asked to consider appointment of 2 new directors. I'm thinking because
You're
of how
thinking you
that's-
should have known who they were, I
How that's
apologize.
written, we're gonna, okay, you're gonna give us some names, and we have to.
No,
approve
I
them.
apologize.
That's,
We
and
need-
once you
thank
gave me the process, or what we're gonna do,
You know what?
it's
Mr.
Fine.
Treasurer, this is ridiculous.
No,
Laura,
no.
do you work for us or do we work for you?
I worked for you, of
Okay,
course.
so if you work for us, then anything the thing that moves forward in the process of this educational institution is not giving us choices.
Darren, she's
Be
giving,
quiet,
she's asking
Gary,
for
Gary,
direction.
Gary, she's not, Gary, you're
Yes,
not,
she is.
Gary, excuse me. Stop. I'm gonna say that the proper way to do the process is we get the stuff and we make the decision on how it moves forward. And we authorize you to make that happen, not vice versa. And in this whole conversation, I look for those buzzwords, and you said you have choices. We have choices, yes. We can check anything. It's not that you're giving us the option of choices. And maybe that's what my problem is, because you're saying that you're giving us, and it may not be you personally, but you're saying you're giving us options. That's backwards.
You know, as an English teacher, you can read that
Excuse
two
me.
ways.
Well, again, I'm just telling how I received it. And I didn't ask for the comment as a music teacher or somebody walking down the damn street. I'm just asking a question. You work for us. So in these instances where the needs are processed, you can give us those tools, but you shouldn't say that I'm giving you options, because in my mind, it gives me the opinion that you're running this and you're allowing us to do something. That is opposite of we don't work for you. I don't work for you. Okay, and I don't want comment. If you want to comment about my comment, then go ahead. But I don't work for you. Okay,
Darren, can I make
stop.
a motion?
Gary, no, Gary, I'm not finished. All I want to do is make sure that we have input on things that happen and not are told what you can do.
So,
Okay, so
Can I make a
if the
motion
board
now?
members are moving, then yes. Then let us know that they're moving, so we can say, Laura, I want you to put together a process of how this should look.
Okay.
It
Now,
sounds like we're about to have that conversation.
well, we should have had
So,
it before it was on the
can I-
agenda. That's
can I
why I
make a
asked to move
motion?
it.
That's
Yes,
what the
sir.
agenda item is, really.
If that motion is on the table to move it to the next meeting, so if you have another motion, go ahead and make it.
Couple questions here. How many people are on the board?
3.
3, so this is critical.
I would just like to move that we as a board, that we, by the next meeting, it's brought to us who has filled out I don't know, what is it, an application?
It's an application.
Filled out an application, and that Laura gives those applications, they're on the board, we can look at them, we can have discussion. We can, as board members, go out and see if we have somebody that we might want to be on. It sounds like the problem is we're not getting a lot of people. And it sounds like the process is, what we would like is for Laura to facilitate bringing back applications. We have applications, and we have it as an agendized item for discussion and to appoint on what we have.
And I would.
Do I have a second? Wait. So we can discuss that.
That's a friendly amendment.
It's a friendly amendment.
Did you second it, Patty?
Yeah, because now we can talk.
Okay, well, but again.
Okay, the floor is to Patty.
I just seconded it. I'm ready for
Oh, you're
discussion.
second. You ready for discussion?
I'm ready for discussion, and I get it. I mean, I misread it at first too, and I thought she was presenting 2 people to us. She's not. She's saying, we have 2 openings.
To consider.
How do
I
we
apologize.
consider?
That's
It's just a
entirely
word.
my miscommunication. I
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah, I understand what you intended, yeah.
If I may, I see that it is posted on the website, that there are foundations. How long did we intend to leave that open?
I'm open
Is
to
that
your.
part of the
I would say
conversation?
I was thinking part of my motion was,
To direct
it would be closed by the 72 hours before the board meeting.
Mhm.
Because we're gonna agendize at the board, it's gonna be an agendized
Right.
item for us to do action, take action, so that we can get the two people on.
But nobody goes to our website. I've been saying it for 2 years, the website is rinky dink. So nobody goes to the website, so you're not getting out to the real public. You didn't put it in the newspaper, they ain't running on Channel 1, it's not on the government channel. Come on now, let's reach out. We got people in this valley going down the hill that we could get off that freeway with expertise in education and keep them up here at home. And that's the whole goal of all of this.
I think
Okay.
part
And
of
what
the
should
job.
come back, what should come back next time is, we need to decide what the process is gonna be before you do the process. I wanna know, I wanna look what the process should be, okay? But for one thing for sure, if the word ain't getting out, and if you don't go to op-ed or wherever that link is, people don't know. No one knows that it is critical in this campus, the only aerospace academy in the whole valley, that we're replacing 2 out of the 3 members. Are you kidding me? So, you know, like I said, what I want for next meeting is you to come, for you to say, these are the processes available, give some thought to it, because that, you can do it full time, and everybody else got another job up here. So you said, these are things that we can be done, and let the board decide which ones they want to do. Not you, don't go out and do the process and then tell us what you did afterwards.
Actually, I think, Darren, the board has given her
You're not
the
thinking,
responsibility
you're
to
not
do this.
That's the
thinking,
motion.
it's not, now it's a motion, but it wasn't before this was put
I'm
on.
saying in the board bylaws,
The
she has
board-
a responsibility to take care of these kind of things.
It's,
in the
I don't, in the
It's been
bylaws,
delegated,
you're right,
not
she
the
has,
bylaws, but the,
she
board
works for
policy.
us, there ain't no bylaws that control her, she works for us, okay?
yeah,
And
there
if
are,
she
there are
works for
board
us,
policies that control what we have
Go,
delegated
you
to
can
her.
find in the bylaws where it says she goes around us and creates a process without our
It
party
doesn't
input. Go ahead and
around
find
us.
it.
She doesn't go around us, we
Okay,
can
it doesn't-
delegate.
It doesn't, we
We
haven't
delegated.
delegated to her and it's already here. Y'all, come on. It's in here, it's number 16 is here. And we haven't delegated to her for to do it today.
Right, we're doing
Okay,
it right now.
but this is, Lord have mercy.
If you let us
I'm
go.
through, I'm done, I'm done.
Okay.
Can I ask a
Done.
question, Mr. President? Can I ask a
Sure.
question? What expertise do these board members need going into, on this board?
So it's a nonprofit board, just like any other, so business or finance or education, all of those are welcome.
Where's that resume that says that? Where's
I'm
the
sorry?
opening, where's the posting that said that this is important for the 2 members anywhere?
So it's posted with the application on the website.
It says it on the application,
Yeah.
once you go to the website.
Correct.
Okay. And the website is what you use to get information out to the entire valley.
Well, we use that, we use the mechanisms that we have to communicate with parents.
What's the
I don't
mechan-
think
what
we have
mechan-
gone to the
what
paper, and we can do
mechanism
that.
What mechanism is it that you use to go to the parents?
We have all calls and emails that go to
Okay, so
parents.
you send an all call out on this one?
I would have to verify that. I know
don't-
it's in,
I'm
normally
asking
would.
questions I know the answer to.
Right.
Did you do the all call, anywhere else to any parent or any community other than the education?
I don't know whether it's been done yet.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Can you run it in the paper?
Sure.
Can you run an ad?
Of course.
Okay, that would be great.
And perhaps provide to us by email if Jillian could, copy of the application that we might forward
Sure.
to anybody we know who would be interested and beneficial.
And that all the board members see what comes to anybody on anything at all. That we all get to see what's going on,
I think that
okay?
I think
Yeah,
that's
okay.
a given.
Gary, can you repeat your motion?
It had a lot of words.
Verbatim,
No,
Okay, wait a minute.
because we're providing direction, is that?
my motion was that, we would, that Laura we will have an agendized action item for next meeting of appointing 2 members to the foundation. And in that, it's gonna be, we're directing Laura to, go and, go by down the street and, start asking people, would you like to be on the fountain, and getting applications and stuff.
Exactly.
And running it in the newspaper.
And writing it in the newspaper,
Right.
and she's gonna,
In
she's
every other school
facilitating
district, every
it
other
for
school
us.
district in the there are 8 school
Did
districts
Patty
in the
second
valley.
that?
Pardon me?
Patty
I'll
seconded
say,
that?
you know what, I think.
Oh, okay.
So the motion and the second essentially concerns what comes up on next month's board agenda. Your guidance, I'm writing down, but I don't
Right.
think that's necessarily legislative
And
directly,
like I
right?
say, I think what's gonna be on that item will be the applications for
Yeah,
us to.
and
to
any
review.
application we receive comes straight to you.
We can review,
Great.
we'll have 72 hours to review the application so that when we come in and discuss, we can make a.
We're gonna discuss the process next meeting because you're gonna gather the information. You have 30 days to make this good, gather the information, and then you're going to send that to us, and then we're gonna decide at the next meeting how we're going to process this and what the process should be.
I don't
You
think
can
that was
give us
Gary's
an
I don't
motion.
think that was
Well,
Gary's
again,
motion.
then I don't accept your friendly motion then.
Okay,
It's
so
not-
Let's call for the
You're
question. Let's
not
call for the question.
understanding the point.
Can you take a
You're
vote?
really not understanding the point.
No,
Okay,
I
we're
didn't.
gonna call for the question.
Stop. It's not, you can't cherry pick employees that come into this school. Now, out there
Who's our
already,
employees?
will you please listen? Out there in the public already, it is the opinion of educators within this campus that you cherry pick who you want to put in jobs, okay?
Okay.
That's what the real issue is. And all I'm asking for, we don't have a process sitting in, Gary, stop it.
No,
We don't have a process
Jared,
sitting
we're
in
gonna
front
do
of
it
us.
the
I
right
don't care.
way. No, we're gonna do it the right
I'm
way.
doing it, I'm speaking.
I'm not
We
doing
don't
a
have a
friendly amendment.
process.
I know how we're
Okay.
doing it.
I'd like to call for
Okay.
the question. I'd like to call for the question. Do we have a
Thank you.
vote on going
Thank
to the
you.
question?
Question.
What we have to do is this.
No, what we have
Mine
to do,
is
she
a
has to call for the
substitute.
question.
Mine is a substitute motion. Mine is not a friendly, see, he's thinking I'm making a friendly motion. So I made a substitute motion. We have to vote on the substitute motion because he wanted to table it. That's the main motion. So now, if we vote on the substitute motion, mine, that we would go ahead with that. If we vote majority, that becomes the new main motion.
Right.
And we vote again on it again the same way,
There you go.
and then we're done.
Exactly,
That's how we do it.
exactly.
So the substitute motion now, and
We vote?
Kevin, if, I think you understand, the substitute motion is my motion. So all those in favor of the substitute motion, which
I'm not
is-
sure it's really very
It's not,
clear what the
that's, I don't think
substitute
that's a
motion
parliamentary. We
Well,
have to-
He is
We had
saying-
a
That
discussion
is
on his
because, see,
motion.
That is
because
right. It's-
I
this is a
seconded his
substitute.
motion to table it,
Right,
and that's what started the whole
is. So it's
discussion.
an amendment,
So
it's
I,
not a
You're
substitute.
amending.
no,
your-
no,
your
it's not an
substitute.
amendment
Substitute.
because it's not friendly. I
right.
have to substitute it because he's not agreeing that he wants that as a friendly amendment. So it's a substitute motion. And he didn't withdraw his motion.
Right, exactly. And that's
So-
exactly how it should go.
So we vote on the substitute motion,
There we go.
which is
And with that
what my
discussion,
motion is.
she called the
Okay.
question, you should be saying all in favor.
Okay, does everybody have a clear understanding of this?
Of what we're voting on, what are we
Yes.
voting on?
We're voting on the substitute.
Gary's
motion,
substitute
my
motion.
Okay, so we're voting, we're gonna substitute Gary's motion, which he will articulate, I guess, in a minute. You
No.
have it.
Yeah, yeah,
We
I
have
think
it.
so.
Okay,
We
we
have
have
it
it.
You
well.
wanna read it?
Jillian, you want to read it again?
Okay, so do you want me to start from the beginning with Darren's and then?
No,
just-
No,
just the
Just
substitute.
read those nice
substitute
here.
motion.
Okay, give
Gary's
me a second,
substitute
because there's a
motion.
lot of discussion, you guys, so I need to
Yeah,
read through
I
it.
know.
Can't have people talking.
As it should be. Let's talk about stuff.
Okay,
You didn't even have to repeat it.
so I have it down that Mr. Roberts would like to move, but I mean, this language, just so you guys know, is not how it's gonna read in the actual minutes, just so you know. So what I have down is that Roberts would like to move so that the board can see the applications prior to the next board meeting. The board has the opportunity to go out and find other applicants that they think would be fitting on the foundation board. It was brought up, Laura asked if the board would like her to facilitate bringing applications. That's when Mr. Reardon seconded. And then Mr. Roberts stated he would like it to be closed within 72 hours before the next meeting.
It's, the basic thing is,
Just the motion.
it's gonna be
Yeah.
an agendized action item for next meeting, that there will be 2 appointments to the foundation.
Yes, so I have it down here, because I put in all of the discussion.
You should be saying all in favor.
Agenda-sized action item for the next meeting to appoint 2 members for the foundation board,
That's
asking Herman to run it into the newspaper and advertise it.
There you go.
Okay, there's a motion before us. All those in favor of this
Substitute.
substitute motion?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item number
Now,
16.
now, no.
We
Now
have to
we
go back to
actually
the
have to
first
go back
motion.
and change the main motion.
Right, go ahead, do the main motion.
And now we go, all those in favor of the main motion, that was the
To move this 30 days out, that was the main motion.
So, no, yours is gone. Mine is,
No, we did yours, and now yours is,
is the
now
main
you have to go
motion.
back to mine. Yours is not the motion, the main motion is now my motion, because you have to get rid of my motion.
Aaron,
You have to get rid of my, you have to vote my motion down. You have to vote it up or down. It's the same thing. I wanted to move it 30 days. That's what it is. So you have to vote it up or down.
Okay, well,
Okay, well,
There you go. You should be
Okay.
saying all in favor. Yeah, come on. You should be saying
All-
all in
that's
favor
fine.
to get rid of it.
all in favor of Darren's motion? Fine. Get
okay,
it.
all in favor of Darren's motion?
Say aye. You gotta say
Say- Kevin's waiting for you to say aye. Say aye.
No,
I
opposed.
just say that. All those in favor of Darren's motion?
Say aye.
Say aye. Or
it. There you go.
Okay,
respond, please.
Any discussion? No?
all
Keep
those,
going.
all
All
those,
those opposed?
All of the
No.
gays.
Nay.
no,
There you go.
okay.
Ooh-wee.
No,
The
motion
voted it
Motion.
down.
The most substitute.
Okay.
can I mention something that I believe this could be such an important item that you really should look at, and we should have this information on how many board members we can have.
5.
Okay, are you sure?
I read the bylaws.
The bylaws allow for up
So you
to
have
5.
5, so we may, instead of 2, I heard a word 2 come in here. You may want to put 4 on there.
I think it's part of our responsibility as board directors to look for people to fill these positions and encourage them to apply. We can find people we think are
All right, good, let it be on it.
And then get the closed session.
Put 2 in
Right here in closed session.
Okay, we're done with 16.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Item 17. Do I have a motion?
I so moved.
Second.
I'll second.
A motion and a second on the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Wait, I would like to pull number B. Number B.
To discuss after the vote
Yeah,
on the
yes,
consent agenda?
after everything else.
Okay,
Number is behind your foot.
all right, any further items that people would like to discuss after?
Foot.
Okay, all those in favor of the consent agenda with item B to be considered after the vote?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item B, monthly financial statements. Gary, do you have a,
Yes, I have,
Concern?
check number
Michael,
106.
Would you click that? Thanks.
Check number 106938, law offices of Young, Mooney, et cetera.
Mhm.
Legal services through 419, $8,011.94. I'm just wondering, when did we, I'm assuming they're on a retainer with us. When did we authorize the law office of Young, Mooney, and so forth? And how many other law firms, because I know we have a letter here from a law firm, Blake, Link, and Rome. And I'm just wondering how many law firms do we have on retainer? Is by us agreeing, is it through a consent agenda always? Is that how we authorize these different groups?
So Young, Mooney and Core has been our primary law firm since we needed a law firm. So it's not exactly a retainer. They bill by the hour. So some months there's almost nothing, some months there's a lot, depending upon what the services are. So for example, today's presentation will be billed just like
Yeah,
any other.
So
Jerry was from Young Mini.
What was the, I agree, I'm just trying to, what were they doing for us for $8,100? Because I have this, and I know we're gonna be getting something from blank and Rome, and I'm just trying to figure out, you know,
So
the other thing is, when, as the board, do we authorize these? Do we authorize it through approving the budget? Do we authorize it through consent agenda?
It's basically the consent agenda every month, and I'm happy to provide the detailed invoices, because those come in. If you'd like to have that level of detail, I'm happy to provide that.
What I would really like to have is this as a board item for us to look at. I'd like actually information of how many law firms we have and how we go about authorizing them to be our law firm. How do we vote on that in that situation? And that's the concern I have. I like Young and so forth, I don't mind, but you know, I'm just wondering how many different law firms do we have? I would like that brought to us at the next meeting and us to have a discussion on if we actually need all those law firms.
And do we put are we putting RPSs out for each of these openings or skills that we're at?
Now,
So we've been with the same law firms for some time, so no, we haven't done an RFP for law firms. That was,
So it was authorized by the board in
So did you make a
early
motion?
days of founding.
You make a motion?
I understand, but I think
Did you
that
make a motion? Or we-
no, I'm just asking for, I would like to see this as a discussion item for
On
the
the next-
board to decide, yeah,
Mhm.
you know, I don't wanna,
Right.
I wanna know who we have, and maybe we don't need everybody that we have.
Reports
so-
on the who we have and what was
The other one
process to get
was-
them? And was it done fairly?
The other one is check 106-837. That was to Every Student Learns Incorporated. Oh, wait, check 106-903.
mhm.
Every Student Learns Consultant Services, 419, paid on 5/10/19, $6,590. I believe in the minutes from the April 1st meeting, it said that we would not have a contract for Every Student Learns. Explanation.
So also, I think in those minutes, it states that Every Student Learns was completing the obligations that they were in the midst of. There were basically two. One was the consultant for negotiating my contract, which is billed through Every Student Learns. That was Gloria Johnston. And the second was the work in support of reformulating the bylaws and supporting the election for our PTSO group. And that work was still in process. So once that work is finished, then we're all done. We just didn't want to stop them in the middle. So I think we discussed that
I think
prior,
we
if I
discussed
recall
that.
correctly.
Maybe
No,
on the 15th.
no. Gary,
I don't remember
Gary's
discussing
correct.
that we were gonna have them go on, and I don't
Right.
remember it being for $6,590.
There was-
absolutely
yeah.
correct. And I think in that same meeting, if we go back and pull those minutes, that we said absolutely nothing. That contract was done that day. There was no mention of a bylaws or whatever Roger came back and did. There was no mention of that before. That was after the fact to justify that you had spent more money with the firm that we discontinued the contract and services from.
I specifically remember discussions on that we authorized the completion of the work that was underway,
No,
including the contract with Gloria.
do you want to read? Did you have the bylaw, the minutes from that meeting?
I don't recall authorization. I do recall disclosure that there were items that were ongoing, and I know the PTSO was mentioned.
And see, and all I remember was Dr. Johnston.
Yep. We
And
should
okay.
have.
Because
we
she
should have
was
it in the
in
minutes.
that meeting.
Yeah.
We should have. Yeah, we should have it in the minutes. What is that?
Which meeting are you guys referring to?
Instead
The
of
last meeting.
April 6th,
April
April 1st.
I have the meeting minutes.
I'm
right
not sure
here.
if it's first or the 15th.
It's the first.
It's the first.
There's no discussion of having them continue that I see.
Well, there was a comment, I remember, Gary, we talked about,
Julian has the official record coming through. Can you pull that up, Julian?
Jillian, yes, I can.
Gillian, can you pull that up, please?
I'm reading it. There's a lot of stuff I need to read through to see exactly where you
Julian,
guys.
it's on page 9.
I'm on that page. I'm just saying
Yeah,
there's
there's a lot
a lot of
there's a
paragraphs, so
lot
I
in
mean, I
there,
don't know if you
yes.
guys want me to read the whole paragraph out loud.
Yeah, that's, it's because we kind of,
I think we were pretty absolute about that. What's in the minutes? I'm just.
I have a different recollection.
Okay, well, that's where we're gonna get the minutes.
And the minutes are
That's
not
it.
necessarily,
The
I mean,
minutes
we
are
can go
the
back to
official
the,
record.
other documentation, I guess.
What are we waiting for?
I have
we're
to-
looking
I'm
at the
sorry, I have to
minutes,
read through
if it
this.
does say anything that
You
we were
guys
going to
have a lot of
continue with.
discussion.
So what
Let
is the issue, Gary?
Well, my
You
issue
want
is.
to disapprove this?
My issue is, my issue is, we had said that we would not sign a contract, and I believe that meant also that was it was over with. And then I see that,
So,
$419, they billed us for over $6,500, that was paid on 5/10. And the board minutes does not show anything that we were going to continue in a
So
professional.
I'm going to apologize because what I understood was that it was clear that yes, we were done once these two projects were finished. So there's a misunderstanding. So I'm going to apologize for that. And I'm going to tell you there was also a May billing. So I will send the entire board both of those invoices so that you can see in detail exactly what they were finishing up. And I will tell you that as of this meeting, if this is what the board directs, if this is the direction you want me to go, there won't be any more charges. I don't think they're finished yet, but I will just simply stop them and explain to PTSO that they need to come up with another alternative if that's what the board directs.
Mr. Chair, the minutes or the official, and I don't know why it's taking so long to get the minutes, to read that part.
It's
Well,
very-
you had
Excuse
access
me,
to the
let me
minutes, why
finish.
don't you
Let me,
cite them?
let me finish.
It's
We
very-
have but she can do it later, because we need to get to this last item.
So,
The minutes are the official record of this body. And so we need, in 30 days, where it says in the minutes, have exactly what you said, because that is the document that says what happened, not our recollection. That's why we tape the meetings, that's why we have someone to take the minutes. So we need to know, and then his question is, on the April 1st, what did we say about Rogers Company? Period. And we need to know whether we told you to stop, period, with Roger back then. And not this time that you're gonna do it, period, it was done next time, that's his point. So let's, that stuff can be done and brought back 30 days, because that's what he asked for.
Well, that being said, I
Last-
would like the board's direction now.
The board of gave you direction before to don't pay
I thought-
Roger and them nothing.
I think that was the
didn't hear
case.
that.
Look at the minutes,
We talked about
look at the minutes.
Well,
Look
cite
at the
them,
minutes.
cite them.
It's you item in the minutes where it says pay
Well,
Roger.
you're the one that says that
I
it
didn't
was in the
say,
minutes.
Gary said that this board said do not use
Well,
that company
I don't think we're
anymore.
gonna resolve that tonight, so,
We're not, and that's what I said, you got 30 days, look at it.
so let's
You
get,
got time?
the agenda item is really to approve the
Okay.
monthly financials.
And the last
Now,
one,
you wanna not approve the financials, Gary?
no, I just have one other, the ASB accounts, under the ASB account, I think we asked this a little while ago, and I think it's more of, I think we're out of, whatever, but we need a description of the expenses. We're still
Didn't
just.
we
no,
include
We're just
that?
still showing ASB,
Scroll.
scroll
We've
down.
got, there are
Scroll down.
some explanations.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, no, I
See, it just
don't.
says right there.
No,
right
stop, wait, go
Yeah.
back up, Michael.
there.
Okay,
Right
that, let me explain the difference. So
Different.
that's by charter impact, and they don't have the descriptions, but the next
Yeah.
page,
Oh, okay.
the
I'm sorry.
descriptions are
I
there.
did not go,
Yeah.
I did not go to the next page.
And
It's a
I did-
duplication,
Yeah.
so it's
I
confusing.
did
Sorry,
find
Julian.
that, but in my opinion, it's a poor accounting. I would like to see the entire, particularly as we're at year end now. If we could have a year-end reconciliation.
No,
I don't need it by month.
Kathy, let me say to the board here, since this is my last meeting, I can get away with this. Many years ago, I was elected to the chairmanship of the hospital board. My first meeting that I went to, the hospital was something like $7 million in the red. I sat through the first meeting, and then I asked, when are the financials discussed? The financials were not discussed with the board. If you wanted to see the financials, you could go down to the chief financial officer's office and look at the financials. I do not think that at any time our monthly financial statements should be on a consent calendar. It should be presented either by our, which we've had in the past, our accounting firm, or the treasurer, or the principal, whichever you prefer, or whichever can do it. Because we're rapidly going to be what, 20 mil, how big are we now, dollar-wise?
In terms of the
30
size of the
million.
20
budget.
mil, huh?
30 million next
Yeah,
year.
thereabouts.
$30 million, all right? Now, granted, $6,500 is important if it was not being spent correctly. However, when you look at financials and you have a budget, that's what you look at. If it's over the budget, then all of a sudden what happens? A red flag comes up and you discuss it. If not, you guys are gonna go bananas here if you continue to look at stuff like this
Well,
every month.
my concern, and I don't entirely disagree with you, because we expect the school to run. There's a certain level of authority there. But ASB accounting has attached to it some legal
That could very
repercussions.
well be. I don't know anything about it.
And that's what we're talking about.
And there may be
To date,
reasons for that.
well, no,
Legal
not to
reasons.
date. Until the
Yeah.
last meeting, all we had was ASB paid ASB. So what I'm asking for, and which we have here, it is there, I did find it. What I'd like is an accounting for the year, the revenue and expenses,
Well, you
okay?
should be able to have that, Kathy,
Mm-hmm.
as of June 30th, whenever we finalize what that is. 'Cause that,
Exactly. But
somebody's
until now,
taken all the,
Right.
the
until now, we've not had
Fritos.
that. So we're just,
It's been included within the audit, but I will have it presented to you separately
and
and in more
it
detail.
is rolled into
Yes.
the school finances.
Correct.
I'm interested in seeing the ASB accounting, because I know we have the store, and we have
Mhm.
functions, and we have fundraisers, and I just wanna make sure that we're not getting ourselves in trouble,
Gotcha.
that's all.
We've got some very
But if
exciting
you had a
accountants.
presentation,
We
that
like
would
this
show
sort of
up
stuff.
automatically. Too, Kathy, that would show up automatically. We should be presented every month. We're meeting monthly, that we have of monthly financials on what has been charged, what has been paid, and where it is versus our budget. And that way, you guys are right on top of everything.
Well,
And
that's what this
it
is.
should not
the
be, what?
consent- That's what the item in the consent
Yeah.
agenda is.
It's in the consent
It's a,
agenda.
you know, it's 45 pages worth of
Yeah,
accounting stuff.
but you see, if you do your financials, you would come up to, maybe there is a line ASB, all right? And there's a budget, and you're above the budget, a considerable amount of money that could be a concern to you.
Well, I think the finance, and as I said, I don't entirely disagree with you, but I think the finance people sitting here would like a little better accounting of the ASB funds.
Good.
Just to make us
Well,
happy.
Mr. Chair, call for the question.
those are the kind of things that pop up all the time, and
Thank you
very
for
embarrassing.
your comments in our last meeting, but I call a question on that one, please.
I'm not sure that we've been
This was the second and the first and the second and the motion.
I just pulled it out of B because I had some questions. My questions have
Full
been,
item B.
my questions have been answered.
Do we have a motion on the table to
There's no
approve?
I
motion
don't
or
think
second,
there's a motion.
right?
We can go ahead and vote on
You
it.
had a motion to pull it, you pulled it.
I pulled it, I had questions.
Now we
So
need a
now-
motion to approve the item,
Yeah,
which is the monthly financials.
Right,
yeah.
I move that the monthly financials be approved.
Item B. We have a
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Now we're at
Can we take a
18.
5-minute break?
No, let's get done. Let's get done. We're at 18, the last item.
No, we're not, we're at board 18, which is board director report.
Okay, so
Uh,
everybody
think-
on report, let's just get through with this.
We've had a member that requests a
restroom break?
break.
Break.
I think we can do that. Take a 3-minute break.
How you, ooh, could I do, this is ridiculous.
And let me just start off with, we did have a partnership meeting with Palmdale School District, and we discussed 5 or 6 agenda items. One of them was discussing kind of the preparations for charter renewal, which is a little ways off for us yet, but we wanted to make sure that we stayed in sync with our authorizer with that. And we did invite Palmdale School Board trustees to attend our meeting, and 2 of them are here tonight, which we really appreciate. I think it helps with the communications and coordination. And we also discussed kind of our responses to the oversight visit items that I think the school responded to, and asked what additional items were required, and we got a little bit of feedback on that. So Kathy was there and Laura was there. I don't know if there are other topics you want to discuss, but I thought it'd be good for the board to hear what we talked about.
Those were the items that we discussed, and I want to welcome Mrs. Nancy Smith and Mr. Dennis Trujillo from the Palmdale School District Board. Appreciate that you could be here tonight. I think that probably covers it, except to say, have we now given Palmdale everything they have asked for?
In terms of the oversight visit,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay, and the concerns about there was curriculum, and so we've all taken care of
So
all
we
of that.
responded to those, and I'm kind of waiting to hear back from Danny, and we'll just continue to
Okay.
provide answers to his questions as he
Okay.
asks.
2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, we had a walkthrough of our facility that's under construction, and we had the director of facilities for Palmdale. We had their consultant from HPLE and another inspector, Tom Brown, who does both DSA inspections and regular inspections, toured the site. And I was fortunate enough to be able to walk that construction site with Dr. Herman. So, and we have another one.
Still working on the date. Looks like it might be this Thursday. It might end up getting pushed back. We also had a request for some additional construction-related information, which we'll provide this week.
Okay, other members?
I had the pleasure of going to graduation. If you haven't done that, well, it'll be a while now, I guess. But it's an amazing experience, and I was overwhelmed with the number of gold seal bearers we have. It looked like 50% of
It's
the
not
students.
quite that, but it looks like that. I know, it's a
Okay.
lot.
40 maybe. And so, what an amazing, I was just overwhelmed.
It's the event was very well done again, I think, and it's getting to be kind of routine there, which is,
Staff works really hard.
we worked really hard to make it run smoothly, and it certainly did this time. Any other comments from board members?
Yes, I asked for the agendized item in open session on the report of discrimination by Mr. Parker at the TPAA board meeting 4/1/2019. I'd like to preface my remarks with, I'm sorry that it actually didn't make it on an open discussion, and I'm sorry that I waited this long to even discuss this. This letter is, to put bluntly, a witch hunt.
Well, let me just
And I
interrupt
want
here in a
to,
second. I mean, this item is on the closed agenda.
Second.
no, it's not on, this item is not on the closed session of what I'm talking.
Okay.
Because the closed session is that then somebody had to do a formal complaint. My concern is that we have here that this allegation necessitated an investigation. And part of our policy is written in a way that is not actually, it says that reporting discrimination, harassment, or retaliation, it says that we can do it, the complaint can be written or oral or email. And I believe by government law, a complaint cannot be oral. It has to be written. Because an oral complaint is actually hearsay. We don't know who made it up, when was it. So the first question I have is, who complained? Who wrote a complaint? Who wrote a complaint of discrimination? The minutes of the meeting don't show anything about a complaint being written or emailed. It also says in here, when there is a complaint, this investigation conducted by a qualified investigator will include an interview with the alleged employee victim. It may also include interviews with person who made the initial report, the complainant, the alleged wrongdoer, and any other person having investigation. This was an internal investigation. Our policy says we would have a third party. We didn't have a third party. Was Mr. Parker from the letter? I didn't get that Mr. Parker was even wrote a statement, wrote anything. If you look at the minutes of the meeting, for example, I find it very interesting that one person in attendance at the board meeting, her statement was taken. And a thing written by Blake Rome, which to me, these people have, I really need to talk to these people. Blake Rome said there were actually, how many people in that meeting? There were 9 non-board members and 6 other board of directors. And they write to the district that the district cherry-picked facts. Well, who cherry-picked in this? We picked one. Was any of us, did we write a statement? Were we asked to write a statement? Was any in the audience asked to write a statement? No. We took one person who was in the room who said, yes, he was very aggressive, he was very this, and so forth. We have 3 employees out who said he was very aggressive. And on top of it, we have our lawyers saying the door was locked for only 18 seconds. Excuse me. When I walked in tonight to this meeting, you talk about an open public meeting? My gosh. Those doors were wide open. Mr. Parker, it wasn't just the front doors that were locked, and whether it was 18 seconds or 1 second, whatever, those doors are not to be unlocked. And you know what? I probably would be very upset too. And to have our lawyers write, while the TPAA board has expressed concerns regarding Mr. Parker's actions on the board, member ranging from being habitually late to meetings to demeaning other board members. Where did they get this? Habitually late? Who gives them this authorization? I don't remember me being interviewed by them to say that he demeaning and so forth, and habitually late. Well, where did they get that? And this is this, and the whole thing is, and student safety. We have to, well, he was very agitated, so they didn't allow him in the second doors. He had to wait outside. I remember when I used to come to these meetings, and I would get here at 3:45, and I would have to get a visitor's pass. I didn't know that's a Brown Act violation. It sure is. I don't need a visitor pass. Nobody needs anything. And I can see how he could be very upset. I'd be upset too. I couldn't even get in the next doors. He couldn't. And then we have, all of a sudden, it's like, I don't know if we have any, we have video, but we only have written statements. But what the employees said, he was very aggressive. Oh, and by the way, as Blake and Rome said, well, we have to watch out because we have students. Safety issues. We didn't know what he might do. We don't know what he might do. Well, it seems to me Blake and Rome should have said something like, you know what, maybe you should have your meetings at 7 o'clock at night. Then we wouldn't have to worry about the children. But they didn't say that. They said he was childish, he was this, he was that, whatever. And now what happens is, it becomes retaliation. I mean, even though we don't even have a complaint in writing, there never was a complaint in writing, we're now asking to have a special board meeting to see if we should have this person removed. And we have Blake and Rome, a terrible letter, just a terrible letter. It makes me, as a board member, have egg on my face, sending to the district that this is just another way that you want to take over TPAA. You want to take over TPAA. Not thinking about, wait, the doors were locked. How would you feel? How would you feel? So I would like, first of all, sometime I want to discuss Blake and Rome. I don't care for this group, especially this, what's his name, Gregory Bordeaux, who really makes a very concerning lack of public access, and not just a board member, it's anybody. And secondly, I would like that this Blake and Rome letter, along with the first two letters from the Palmdale School District, April 26th, May 3rd, and then the June 7th, both of those attached to the minutes of this meeting. This is terrible. This is absolutely outrageous that we were being asked. Now we haven't gone through with it. I don't know if I've looked at some of the letters from Garcia Hernandez Sani. I don't know if we've done everything that they've asked us to do, but we were in the wrong. This letter was in the wrong.
Gary, I kind of see it as legal posturing between two attorneys where the district and the charter should be working together instead of working apart. I see it as legal posturing, which is representing both the district and ourselves horribly.
But the district,
Horribly.
if this building was like it was tonight, when I walked in, open, those two doors wide open. If this building was like that on April 1st, there would never have been, and I'm talking about this investigation. That's the main thing. This investigation is not an investigation. This was an internal, we're gonna pick who we want. We get statements from 4 people, no other statements, nothing, no interview of the complainant who never really made a complaint. And then it's turned around and made to look like he's the one that's fault. But, excuse me, the doors were locked. And if it wasn't for the doors being locked, we wouldn't have these letters going back and forth. But this was the first letter that went back and forth. And the bottom line also is, it says in the contract of the headmaster that she would not have contact with the district unless authorized by us. The investigation should have been authorized by the board. Contact with the district should have been authorized by the board. None of that was authorized by the board.
Can I ask, as, I don't know how many other people do have students coming here, but I do. And I don't want just anybody to be able to walk in here, given the state of the way things are going in lots of other schools around this country. It scares me half out of my mind. I go into any high school, I have to present an ID, I have to present something saying who I am. And at the end of the day, me being a parent of a student that comes here, I'd like to know where the line gets drawn with, yes, I get the whole Brown Act, I understand that to have access to a public meeting. However, having access to a public meeting is great, absolutely. But having access to children who are on my son's campus at that same time, I don't know who's walking.
Then change
That's why
the
you have
meeting.
someone sitting right on
Then
there.
change the meeting to 7:30.
Right.
We'd be here at 7:30.
Kids are here after 7:30.
Well, but the thing is, then change the venue. Be somewhere else. You cannot,
We have to
this
do a workaround.
you
We
cannot
have to have
decide,
that plan.
you cannot decide who, if somebody from the, I mean, hey, there are times at the high school district where there were teachers and they were pretty volatile. We did not have a contract, and we were going into that meeting, and I'll tell you, we were volatile. You don't get to pick and choose. You don't get to say, oh, wait a minute, you're very aggressive right now. We're not letting you in the meeting. No, it's,
Yeah,
the
difference
Brown Act
the-
is
The
access.
Palmdale board meetings are not held on a campus, and that's the problem.
Well,
It's
but this-
access to the campus is what's the problem, and maybe, how do you do that?
But you can't. You have the Brown Act.
We have
It's
to work
law.
around it. We have to do a workaround somehow.
It's
Another
law, and you
another
cannot,
facility, a later meeting.
then that's what you have to do, or you have something, but you cannot. Again, this letter, this and to me, it's not an investigation. Where was the third party? There was no third party. Where was all of us interviewed? Write a statement. We weren't, none of us. We get this. And I'll tell you, if you look at the minutes of the meeting, it doesn't say any of this. It doesn't say, the minutes of the meeting which were official, which we approved, hey, it says, read. Mr. Parker stated it was good to be back, but he was driving around the neighborhood and spoke to the neighbors in the area, and they are concerned with having young kids on the same campus as the older ones. I'd like to see a report card regarding whether or not
Gary,
other
this is
schools.
all supposed to be done in closed session.
No, it
it's
isn't.
not. No, it's
This
not.
is,
We're not
this is,
employees.
this
We're
is
not
an open
employees.
document.
Why not?
This is a document that has been given to the district. It's a
Yeah.
public document now. So therefore, none of this is not
Well,
about,
the discussion,
the-
what are you doing? You're sort of preaching to the choir.
He's not
here.
preaching,
I'm-
he's
I'm just saying in my part is,
Okay, you
This-
said it.
He has done,
Three or
he has,
four
excuse me,
times.
we're in director's comments, that's all this is about, so what he's explaining is his
and
concern.
Right,
and
how
if
long
we
is it
have a
gonna go?
concern
And
about,
he's the
How long ago?
director, everybody
Right.
gets their own turn and how much time they need.
if we have a concern, then you've got to go to a different, go to Saturday
You can
meeting.
go,
I
you got my
guess.
number.
But
This meeting's not
But,
for
you know, you cannot deny access to the public. You cannot deny access to anybody. And he was denied access, not once, but twice.
I think I have been too. I have.
I
didn't
have too.
understand- I didn't understand, now I know all about the Brown Act. I
Right.
didn't understand, I thought it was for the safety of the kids as well. But now we know we need a workaround plan, maybe locking the doors with no access to the students.
We have it with somebody posted out there, I
When
think
we-
we're
when
appropriately
we're
saying.
meeting, yeah.
Are we in my comment
But the
turn?
thing is-
Everybody has a turn?
Yes,
My
I'm
turn?
done.
Is it my turn, my
I'm done.
comment? So let me just elaborate and make it succinct. Why this young man was here and what he's telling you about the Brown Act is not debatable. That's the law. We already have a meeting at 4:15, which is after school hours, but I don't think it gives parents the optimum time to be here because it's at 4 o'clock and most parents work till 5 or later. So moving the meeting I've been talking about for more than 1 year. The Brown Act violation is separate. It's not debatable at all. That's what that young man he told you over and over again. It's not debatable. And we violated the Brown Act constantly, and even since I first became a director when you had it locked in the little room at the other campus. This is a public meeting. This ain't your meeting. This is a public meeting. So the public has access and to talk about these fears and concerns and all that, and then you're gonna put an elementary school right next to it? I think that I think somebody needs to look at you're talking out both sides of your mouth. So the point here is the Brown Act was violated, period. That is confirmed. The other thing is that in violating the Brown Act, we as a body are subject to going to jail. But what's worse that happened that there wasn't a complaint in writing and someone took it upon themselves to do an investigation and didn't even interview all the parties involved, is what he's saying. Nobody on their own did an investigation and came back and said that I had aggressive facial expressions. That right there is the damaging stuff because one, that investigation was not approved by this board, nobody knew. I didn't know about the investigation. As a matter of fact, I didn't even look at the investigation until somebody told me go read it, because I just put it in the stack of TPAA stuff. I didn't even think it was important. But then you turn around and you say, and do an investigation and say, I'm the problem because I felt some kind of way when I came in, and that's what I said. I felt some kind of way. You turn that into everything, and you intentionally had on your own volition, or you conspired with the president of this board and did an investigation, and then blamed it on me with the most racist language I've ever seen in my whole life. For no reason whatsoever, you did it on your own. I think it rises to the level of you being dismissed. I think it rises to the language that's in your contract about you being here, and I'm going to call for that because this is bigger than the Brown Act, and anyone besides yourself involved in this needs to go because that was the most racist thing that has ever happened to me in this Antelope Valley, including sitting down with the Ku Klux Klan. And it was intentional. It was done intentionally. And the language used and underlined and capitalized in that letter was egregious, intentional behavior, and not only are you facing litigation, but being shut down. Because you cannot explain and cannot approve an investigation that you decided to do on something not complaint, change those words around, and then turn me, I guess, because I had to open the door of my cane, whoever said I was coming through there and got locked out the second time, that they were in fear of their safety, that I couldn't even push the button to open the door myself. I had to use the cane to push the disable button. And for some reason, I'm gonna get superpowers walking through that other section and jump across the counter and do harm to someone. This thing is all my 30 plus years of being in this Antelope Valley. This is the most, and including the 30 years of chairing the Human Relations Commission. I don't even know why you would do this to any person, let alone me, when I've been supportive of you, had lunch with you, and I said, this is how we move forward, and usually you turn around and say, I'm an aggressive black man gonna kill people, and they're afraid of me. And I've been the only black face in these meetings since I first got appointed. So like I said, I don't want you to comment. There's not a comment. Yes, you are facing a whole bunch of stuff because you cannot do this to people. It is difficult enough to be a man of color in this country. All you have to do is turn on the news. We're dealing with this, just the picture of this at Palmdale School District because of some teachers. And then you turn around and I did not, and I'm embarrassed. I didn't even, all I said is, I'm feeling some kind of way. And then you turn that around and do your investigation and say, I'm an aggressive black man finna kill white people. That's what that meant to me when I read that letter. And that kind of behavior can't be tolerated in this country, in this city, in this community, and it won't be. But what you did is the most egregious thing that I've ever seen happen to me. And if you were involved in it, you facing a whole bunch of legal stuff. Okay? Because you can't do this to people. This is what, as a black man, this is what we talk about every day. It's difficult enough being just a black man in this country. But for you to do that, and I've been with you for 3, 4, 5, how long, Nancy? How long, when did you appoint me the first time?
About 4 years ago.
And have breakfast with you and take you to lunch, and then you turn around and make me have aggressive facial expressions. And they were in fear for their life because I was standing there with a cane. And then ask for my removal and underline stuff of absence. I'm a damn volunteer. I don't even live in Palmdale. I'm not sitting here because you needed a black face. I'm sitting here to do governance because I'm good at it. I'm the best. In 25 years of the Human Relations Commission, I am appalled, I'm insulted. As a matter of fact, it hurt my damn feelings from someone that sat and we broke bread together and that I told positive things to and supported. Then it's a gazillion articles in your contract would have you removed, and I'm imposing all of this. And hell yeah, I'm gonna sue the district, and I'm gonna sue the board and everybody else. Because that was a perfect example of why African American people feel the way they do. That's the perfect example. And I'm appalled and insulted, and damn it, I'm gonna be made whole before this is over. So I ask for your resignation or an investigation, put together a committee to investigate your behavior and everyone involved to take the appropriate action of removal, starting with you and any board member that was involved in the conspiracy to put that letter together, they also. That's my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your time.
Okay, any other directors have comments tonight? Or director comments? Okay, we'll
I
move on.
was just gonna
Yeah,
note
go
that I
ahead.
also was honored to participate in graduation. It was really an amazing experience to be able to shake the hands of all of our graduating seniors. I would like to particularly recognize Ms. Gray, who I noticed at least 12 students burst out into tears as they went to shake her hand and demanded that they be hugged instead of just a handshake. And it was just such a beautiful example of the connection that really does exist between teachers and students at the school. And I just thought that that was really beautiful, that they were so moved that they're stopping their own celebration to be able to, acknowledge the impact that she's had on their lives. So that was really special to witness, and I appreciate it. And I also want to echo my thanks for our Palmdale board to, be here tonight and to get to see the activities and, the work that we do. So thank you. That's all.
Anyone else? Okay, that completes the legislative agenda and item 18 board director reports. And we'll go on to prepare for closed session. And let's start with public comments. I know Nancy wanted to make a comment at this time.
Yeah, I did. We were happy to get the invite and to see, I think it does help clarify. And we appreciated the walkthrough 2 weeks ago. We're still leery and we hope you get it done in time. We're not against you. What we're trying to do is protect those kids. Because if we start school on August 14th and your school isn't ready to go, those kids are gonna miss some weeks of school. So that's our concern, is that we don't want to have our elementary kids miss those weeks of school. And there's been a lot of talk around that we are trying to take this charter down. If we were trying to do that, we would have done it already, because enough times the Brown Act has been broken and things have happened that shouldn't have happened. But that's not what we want to do. What we're doing is giving you letters, and the back and forth between the attorneys. I will say we took great exception to the letter Gary was talking about. And I have concerns with that because it appears to me that attorney doesn't understand the Brown Act at all. And that was a concern for me, but we're going back and forth, but it's to try, because if you were to come to us right now for a renewal, we have a problem renewing a charter that can't follow the law. And so we're trying to give you the heads up. There are things you need to change before we get that far, because that's not our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is that we partner this and we make this good for kids. And that's all we're doing. We're trying to protect the elementary kids to make sure they get a full year of education, and it's not something that all of a sudden gets jammed in. We approved this in 2016. It didn't get started to build this thing until December of 2018. That's not our problem. That was not our timeline. You need to take a look at how that timeline worked and what happened to cause it to be delayed. I don't know why it was delayed 2 years, but that was not our problem. But we're really concerned about those kids, and we're really concerned that you have to get the act together here as far as sticking by the law and just give us the information that we asked for. I will say that after back and forth a few times, Laura has gotten us most everything. I think Danny's got a couple of clarifications that are going to be coming. But we're paying our consultants to come and look to see how the school's getting built and to make sure that it'll open in time for those kids, because those kids cannot afford to lose 7 weeks of education if it doesn't happen. And that's our concern. You know, we know it's going to happen. We've written that ADA out of our budget. All of that's done, but our concern is for the kids. And we just want you to understand we're not here to take you down as long as you do what you're supposed to do on this end. So, and I don't know if Dennis will be back. Well, hopefully you'll have at least one of us here at each meeting, and that'll depend because of vacations and different things going on this summer. But we are trying to open up the talks. I know you lost one board member, and Kevin's gonna go out. So hopefully you'll get a couple of new board members that will attend the meeting, because it's Raul and Dennis and myself and our director of LCAP and charter schools that attends, and then it's Laura, and it was 3 of your board members before. So I think it opens up discussion and it stops a lot of the rumor mill if we can just sit down and talk about it and work on it. And I think our last meeting was pretty pleasant that we had.
Sure.
You know, so I think it can be done, but please don't think we're here to destroy you, because that's not what we're for. But if you don't react appropriately, we're gonna have to do, because you now have $82 million in loans. And if we don't do the correct oversight, we become responsible for that, and we cannot use these buildings because they are not built to Title 24. And so we can't use them because they are not built to the earthquake standards that public schools need to be built to. So we have no desire to take over your loans because we didn't do our job. So we're making sure we're doing our job. So if something else happens, your bondholders will own whatever happens here. So, okay? And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, but that's what we're here for, is the kids.
Her last name is Smith?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
And we do appreciate the partnership meetings. I think they have been very useful over the last,
And you know,
especially the last,
I think two
6
human
months
beings
or
sitting down, or a group of human beings, get far more accomplished than attorneys.
So do I.
Just saying,
Always.
just saying. So
Always.
keep that communication open.
okay.
Mr. President, before we go into closed session, When I agendized the closed session items, Mr. Simmons pointed out to me that I didn't block and copy the exact safe harbor language. So I am gonna ask you how you'd like to proceed. It's not exactly the safe harbor language. That was entirely my mistake.
It's my opinion that we need to set aside the Brown Act complaint because there are several facets to that, and I wouldn't want us to step outside of that safe harbor language. There are state and federal laws pertaining to students
That protect their
that
rights,
protect the student.
which is why
and
it's posted that way.
I wish he were still here, but I feel like we could discuss the student. But I would defer to the rest of the board.
Well, I think the language, we do have potential litigation in there, which is safe harbor.
It's not
It's
exact.
Not the
I
exact
went
language,
and
is that the
checked
concern?
right before the meeting, and it's not exactly, it's not identical, and that's on me.
And they are very specific about that safe harbor language.
So you think it prohibits us from discussing it?
The first item, yes, I do. The second item, I think there are state and federal laws that cover us. But I will defer if you want to bring it back for the next meeting, if the rest of the board would be more comfortable with
Is
the.
that your motion? Yeah, make a motion, go, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking ahead. Make the motion, I'm down.
What is your
We're not,
recommendation?
yeah.
I think since the safe harbor language isn't precise, I think the prudent thing to do is to re-agendize it next month.
Then that's the motion that I make.
Second, I'm second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to,
Is there discussion, Mr. Chair? It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion?
that's what I'm trying to get to there.
Okay, cool.
On the item
'Cause I'm-
of the Brown Act
burning.
complaint, the motion is to defer that until the next meeting.
I think my motion is to defer both items
Yeah.
based on the,
Oh, I thought
Yeah,
you said you
master
wanted
make
to
sure
do
with-
that.
based on the headmaster's recommendation. Did I
No,
misunderstand?
you're correct.
The only thing, we're not doing this in closed session.
We're moving it to next
Oh,
month.
but does it have
Do
to
we-
be listed on?
Can we, we've got people in here and we're talking,
It wasn't agendized
it's all
for
right.
open sessions, so,
We're still, we're good.
We haven't recessed to closed session.
correct, we're not in
Okay,
closed
we're-
session.
we're fine.
We're moving
We're
to,
discussing.
table
something I
this
thought,
Well, I'm
okay.
gonna
Until
go
next,
on.
yeah,
I'm finna
that's
go
right.
home. I'm finna go in support. Go
Correct.
on. Thank God
Are
we're
we
going home.
discussion?
Come on, let's go. Moved and seconded,
You know.
Mr. Chair, discussion, that's where we're at, come on, Paul. I know, this is so much
If
fun,
we're-
this is so much fun.
Okay,
He don't know what he doing.
so what's the motion?
Is it
Table the
moved and
closed session
seconded?
items. Table the closed session items.
until the next meeting.
Until the next meeting where we have proper safe harbor language.
And other stuff.
When is the next meeting?
Thank you.
Third Monday and.
Yeah.
Is there anything that would require that statutory, that would require that action be taken on any of this prior to that time frame? Nothing that we have to respond to? Okay.
And if there were, I would notify the board and
The language.
we would discuss a special meeting if need be.
Okay,
With 24
Any
hours
further
notice.
discussion?
I'm learning.
so the
July 15th is the next meeting.
motion is to defer the closed session items, both items, until the next board meeting on July 15th,
We're in-
was it?
Yes.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded already.
Ellen?
We were discussing.
We're in
I was
discussion.
just,
We're
I
in
was just
discussion.
making sure everybody understood what the item was, the motion was.
I am. I want
Okay.
I have discussion, Mr. Chair. A couple of things that I totally agree with, Madam Secretary in moving this out. I think these are critical items. I think that the young man touched upon more than you knew that he touched upon. I know now you have more information, and if you didn't have the original investigation letter, you need to look at it, because it is very serious. And closing this, the only thing I wanna say is, at the next meeting, can we have hot finger food, some warm stuff over there? In my discussion, and I'm done. I'm with it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Motion to
opposed?
adjourn?
Opposed?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair. You got a motion?
I'll second it, I'll second it.
There is no
And a
discussion.
second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's go on. Warm stuff. All right. I'm gonna act like I can actually move it.
Oh, Aaron,
Yeah.
I love you with my whole heart. Aaron, like that.
You know what? Girl, I was gonna give it to you,
Thank
but
you.
I'm packing up. I got
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Neck bone.